Rosetta, where are you? My back's against the wall. Do 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 do. Cool song just came on BB King's Bluesville, which is a cool station on Sirius. I relate to the song. It's a song about heartache, about when a man gets his heart broken because that woman he's in love with rejects him. I've been there, and that it is a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. He talks in the song about shedding the tears, and yep, that's it. You do that until you're done. And took me a minute, man. So cool song. Anyway, this video is about another important topic, which is the economy. Yeah, I just opened my browser and something popped up about, H&R Block's laying off a bunch of people because I guess some people are getting advice from AI or whatnot, and so they've had fewer people have been coming in. They've had to cut their workforce, and I guess it's a big fear that a lot of people have that a lot of jobs are going to get cut because AI is going to do them better. So there is a solution here, and it is economic freedom. It is competition. I'm actually wearing my shirt, Allow Competition. I've been wearing this around the neighborhood. It's got my website on the back. Hopefully you saw that. So I had to do that. Sorry. So once we have economic freedom, we're going to have demands for agriculture. First of all, we got other stuff before even we get to that. We got security. People are going to want security. So if you're someone who can provide security, you're going to be in demand. Second thing people are going to want is there's a lot of things people are going to want. People are going to want what they see as justice. People are going to want food. Food's going to become a real big demand real soon because people cannot do without it. This is critical. This is a critical fact of economics, and it is a critical fact, I believe, of spirituality, in that it's a feature of this universe that teaches us. So once we have freedom, there's going to be demand for food, and thus there's going to be demand for agriculture. So anyone who owns land, once we have freedom, will be free to consider what crops they might grow on that land, what animals they might raise on that land, and start growing on that land. Now, I kind of said that as an absolute, and it's not an absolute, because we do have this issue of pre-existing agreements between landowners. So there is some land that is subject to owners associations, those are private agreements that were made between those parties. And so those parties are going to need to determine how they're going to go forward with that agreement. There's also certain political zoning rules that have been in effect, so that, for example, there's some stuff, and so food's one thing, but manufacturing's another thing, right? And so people don't want to live next to certain types of manufacturing and other industrial processes. And so there have this duty of figuring out which land is going to be subject to which rules has been allocated to tax-funded governments, which under my definition of freedom will not exist. So, but having said that, people bought property in these zones with the understanding that these rules would be in effect. So I believe that those groups also within a common zone need to figure out if they need to form an association to carry on the rules that they want to carry on with. And we can get into the details of how groups should do this. Should they do a democracy? Should it have to be unanimous? Different areas can do things slightly differently. They can experiment. They can learn from each other in this transition period, which will be undertaken if we get freedom. So however, that's one restriction and it applies to certain places. But other than that, people are going to be free to do whatever. So there's going to be places you can go buy land and you can build a factory and you can pay whoever you want, whatever you want, doing that. So, I'm assuming this takes place in the wake of a situation where fiat currencies have become worthless and debts payable in fiat currencies have thus been declared by the government before it, rescinds its power through a legal process. Sorry, I just kind of lost where I was at. I was up till 4 a.m. last night, and then I worked a real long day today, so I'm at the tail end right now. But I was talking about, you're going to be free to do this, right? So with fiat currencies worthless, people are going to have to pay in whatever mediums they have on hand. So one thing that in freedom I am extraordinarily confident will become money is coinage made of particular metals, especially silver. Well, actually, I can tell you exactly what metals. Well, especially silver and copper. And I believe copper and nickel will also have good value. So, That's one medium. Other people can be paid in equity in the company's profits. Hey, come work for us and we're going to split the profits, you know, between us. So 12 people are going to start a factory, some land. Those 12 people are going to decide we're going to split it 12 ways. We're going to split up our duties fairly. We're going to do it this way. Someone else is going to decide I'm going to pay employees in silver. Someone else is going to decide, I'm going to, I'm going to give them 5% of the company. I'm going to keep the majority. But the key is no one's going to go and be their employee or be their part owner unless they voluntarily agree to enter into that agreement. And so different people are going to own land and do different things in different places because there's a lot of land, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of demands of things that need to be produced in this world that have real value. And food's, of course, an example of that. But, of course, there's all kinds of stuff. There's electronics, there's furniture, there's clothing, there's automobiles, there's aircraft, there's boats, everything. Look around you. Everything, all these creations were created somewhere. And without, any oversight, different people can try different things to create different things. And, people who have good strategies will succeed and they'll get customers. And those with poor strategies will fail, and those assets will get purchased by someone new who's going to use that land for some new purpose. So customers are going to get to choose who they shop with. You have all these different, again, allow competition. That is my motto. That is, I have this great disagreement with a lot of people about borders and how border policy should function. And my belief is, I identify as a capitalist. So to me, capitalism means maximum power is held at the landowner level with regard to what takes place on that land. However, I recognize that there's certain things that should not take place, primarily slavery, in that anyone who wishes to leave a landowner's land should be free to leave that land. And if that landowner wants to prevent them, my proposal is that a force be assembled to free those slaves from slavery. I have some other ideas. I wrote a whole book about my ideas. And then at the end of the book, I talk about what I think some possibilities, crazy stuff, interesting stuff that I seek to ground both theologically and within what is scientifically plausible according to human understanding. So take a look, please. Tell you what, the first 5 people. No, I don't think I can do that. That's probably. See, there's all these rules, there's all these laws that prevent us from doing stuff that we want to do. And some of that stuff, it's like, it would be cool. Like, I don't think I could, like, tell people, like, I'm going to reimburse the first 5 copies. Just please leave me a review, because then it's like you're buying your own book and leaving a review almost, even though you're working with someone else. I don't know, it's a gray area, and you might get kicked off or banned or something. And, of course, you know, they have internal policies too, so, you know, what we need is competition. We need producers competing against each other. I mean, this government system, big money, big companies can influence political agenda with donations, and that causes policies to be made that tend to favor them at the expense of who would be their competition. And it's a system that exists. It's a bad system. Yeah, competition is a good system. And yeah, I talk a lot. You know, we've discovered recently that there was a really horrible group involved with Epstein, and it seems like this group has held a lot of power in this world. In my book, I even write a section on demons, and if anyone should read, you know, even to these fucking guys, I fucking offer that. Because we want our freedom, man. You know, a lot of people are real confused about what it is that we need. But what I am describing is what we need. And I don't know the extent of God's mercy. You know, my belief is that, you know, in the French Revolution, they used the guillotine, which was actually designed as a very quick method of death, a merciful death of people they felt should die. Now, a lot of people suffer that fate, but there's a spiritual aspect to leaving mercy, or leaving justice to God. Because I don't know the extent of God's needs in God's universe. I mean, we're one planet in a massive universe. You know, there's probably all kinds of hells going on other planets with other beings who have fallen, and they could probably use some volunteers to go help clean up some of them places, you know. I mean, I'm a sinner too, you know. I mean, I ain't done these things, right? But I ain't no angel. So, you know, God's given me a path, you know. He's given me a path to walk. to seek redemption. And it's a big universe, you know. So for me, that's a religious deal. That's a personal belief. I'm not going to stand in the way of people who decide they're going to do something to the guys who perpetrated these crimes. There, in my opinion, are greater uses of my energy than worrying about that bullshit, right? So that's just some thoughts about all that. So thank you for watching. And hey, the video didn't cut off at 21 minutes. I'm amazed. Have a good evening.